How we doing, everybody? This is your boy Sid the RC guy, and we are here at beautiful Copar's Hobby Town as we do so often with my good friend Tom Neff. Tom, how we doing today?
We're doing good. We're going to talk about doing some flying.
Nice. So, you guys have seen the previous video of us doing a little bit of flying and kind of what's going on, and I thought we need to get more detailed into it. So, I'm going to hand it over to Tom. He's going to give you guys a ton of information, and hopefully you guys, this will put you in the right direction of where to go.
So today we're going to go over just a quick review on, this is a glass air produced by Horizon and Hobby Zone. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about your first choice of an aircraft and what you really might want to do. After you get this thing and get it out of the box, actually not only just this one, but any trainer you elect to fly, you want to very, very distinctly go over each and every individual component and do a pre-flight before you take it out to the field. Because if you don't, and you get out there, you may end up with problems that could have been resolved back at the shop. So when you get your aircraft, some of the things you want to look at is, first off, you want to make sure, when you're doing your pre-flight, is you want to make sure and look at components like the servos are mounted and they're solid and they don't wiggle around. Make sure that you have clips that are locking down the clevises going to your flight controls on both ailerons. Make sure that your wires are mounted securely for the ailerons as well. And once you've inspected the wing, don't be afraid to do a little check to make sure that it's got some rigidity to it, because sometimes if the spars aren't glued in correctly, the wing will flex in flight, and you know what that can end up happening after that. That's pretty ugly.
Crash.
So once you get that, you're satisfied with the wing, then go ahead and start on one side of your fuselage and start looking around it and go all the way around. Make sure that everything is in good condition. And once again, I already found another problem. So if we would have tried flying today, the elevator is not even connected to the push rod clevis back here. So I connected that and then slid the link up on there. And then after doing that, I'm looking and I see yet another problem where I can see that the elevator is loose. So that'll have to be super glued with some CA foam safe super glue and secured as well, because you don't want it flying like this, because if you see the elevator moving, you can actually physically see the elevator is moving back and forth, and any loads created on the horizontal stabilizer will cause that elevator to move. So that's got to be secured. These are all just little pointers like this that will save an airplane. Next thing you want to do is just kind of move the flight controls and make sure that the control horns aren't loose on the actual aircraft itself. Once you do that, you've looked all around that side, come back up this other side and ensure that the landing gear are mounted well. And after the landing gear are mounted well, then go ahead and go to the inside and make sure that the servos are glued in tight and verify everything inside is secure and plugged in completely. Alright, it looks like everything's good to go, but before this airplane can fly, this would have to be repaired, because that would cause some very serious trim issues when you're flying. Alright, once you've got all that set up and everything looks good and you're getting ready to go out to the field, charge up a minimum of 2 batteries. Excuse me. And then one can be charging while you're flying the other one. And then you're going to go ahead and bind it to a transmitter. So you're going to take, say you've got the DX5E Spectrum. You take this DX5E Spectrum, and to bind it, binding means that you're going to connect this radio to this aircraft, and then it will only specifically fly this aircraft. Inside of the transmitter, inside of the fuselage, you have your receiver, and there's a point in there that says bind, and what you're going to do is put a bind plug into the receiver, and then you're going to turn on your transmitter holding this switch. Then what will happen is the DX5E will be blinking like that, and when that's blinking, what will happen is the receiver will turn on to a solid orange light, and that means at that point then you can go ahead and release this one, and the aircraft is then bound to the transmitter. At that point then, you want to double check your flight controls to make sure that everything is going the right way, so that when you pull back on the elevator, the trailing edge of the elevator is going up. When you push forward, it's going down. When you push a rudder to the left, the trailing edge is always referred to as a trailing edge, As you push to the left, the trailing edge of the rudder is going to go left. As you push to the right, the trailing edge of the rudder is going to go to the right. Then with the ailerons, when they're connected, all of these things are checked best by standing behind the aircraft. So excuse me for just a second, Sid. So as you're standing behind the aircraft and you push this to the aileron control to the left aileron is going to go up. As you push to the right aileron is going to go up. Conversely, when the left aileron goes up, the right aileron goes down. When you push to the right aileron goes up and the left aileron goes down. Stand behind it, make sure all your flight controls are good. At that point, if something is backwards, what you do then is you have these switches on the front of your transmitter. Those are reversing switches, and that will allow you to go ahead and change the direction of your flight control. If you haven't flown, I highly recommend that you have a flight instructor go over your aircraft prior to flying, and then also use what's called a buddy box setup. Buddy box setup is using two transmitters, okay? And when you're using two transmitters, what happens is one is a master, and this one is a slave unit, all right? The master unit, okay, which would be actually in this case, this would be the master, is actually bound to this aircraft. There's a cable that runs from the master unit to the buddy box or slave unit. What happens is the aircraft will be flying and the master has control of it. Then when you get in the sky, then the person who is running the master control, which would be an IP pilot or instructor pilot, pulls on this switch, and at that point then that transfers control to the person that is flying. Then he has complete control exactly the way that the person that was in charge had control. At that point then, you go through a very specific set of flight sequences, and then what will happen at that point is you train, and then when a person gets in trouble, all of the person flying that has a master control has to release and take over and fly the aircraft. And then you go back and forth, flying very specific set of maneuvers in order to get that person to learn to fly. And until a person can physically take off and land, fly figure eights, ovals, they're not ready to go. And when they can do that, and the person running the master control can allow them to fly the complete flight without having to recover, at that point then they are ready to fly. But until then, they are not, and you will crash, I can assure you.
I can't stress enough, folks, of what he's saying. So I've gone flying gliders, and that was pretty easy. When we went out to fly this, it's a whole different ballpark, and all we did was left turns. So I'm still in a big part of the beginning of the stages of learning, but the buddy system by far is the absolute best way to go.
Well, that's it for this one. If you guys have any more questions, we're going to have some more videos on this. Let us know. We'll see you later.
As always, guys, make sure to check us out at Facebook at Colpar's Hobby Town. Also, I'll have all the AMA and Elite Park information at the end, and Tom Neff information if you want to get a hold of him direct. Please like and subscribe to us. As always, keep lepers charged. Catch you guys later.
See ya.